Welcome back to the Jazz Pursuit. In this video, we're going to look at the classic Parker tune, Yardbird Suite. Yardbird Suite was written in the 1940s and was first recorded on a 1946 dial session with Parker's septet, which included both Miles Davis and Lucky Thompson. Yardbird was Parker's nickname, which was later shortened to Bird, although one funny anecdote is how Dizzy Gillespie bucked the trend and instead referred to Parker as Yard. Alongside the Parker recording, there are other notable versions worth checking out by Art Pepper, Ron Marsh and Carmen McRae. Below, I've attached a PDF handout that accompanies the video and includes all the analysis, a lead sheet and the piano sheet music of our arrangement. Right, let's get started. So, first off, let's take a look at the key bits of information. Yardbird Suite is in 4/4 time, and in the key of C major. The form is 32 bars, which is organised into an A-A-B-A structure, where each section lasts for 8 bars. First, there's the A section, which is then repeated. This is followed by the B section, before ending with the final A section. So that's the key bits of information. Now let's dive in and take a look at the A section harmony. The A section harmony begins on chord 1, C major 7. Then it moves to chord 4 as a minor chord, F minor 7. This F minor 7 chord is then the starting point of a 2-5 cadence. As F minor 7 is the 2 chord, this means that B flat 7 is the 5 chord. In a regular 2-5-1, we'd now expect the 5 chord, B flat 7, to resolve down a fifth to E flat major. However, this cadence is instead a backdoor 2-5-1. In a backdoor 2-5-1, rather than resolving down a fifth, the 5 chord instead resolves up a tone, through the backdoor to the target. So here, B flat 7 resolves up a tone through the back door to C major 7, which is chord 1 of the overall key. Next in the A section, the harmony moves through a common progression, a 1-6-2-5-1. Chord 1 is C major 7. Chord 6 is A minor 7. Chord 2 is D minor 7. Chord 5 is G7, which resolves to chord 1, C major 7. In this progression, we've built each chord using the notes of the home key scale. However, to create more momentum, we can tweak each chord, apart from the 1 chord, to a dominant 7. This creates a chain of 5-1 cadences. A7 resolves down a fifth to D7, which resolves down a fifth to G7, which resolves down a fifth to C major 7. There's one more chord that we need to add to the A section, and it comes in bar 3. In here, we can add a chromatic approach from above to the 6th chord A7. A semitone higher than A is B flat, so B flat 7 is the chromatic passing chord that leads to A7. The addition of the chromatic approach also creates a pleasing bass movement that walks down from C to B flat to A. Yardbird Suite was written in the early 1940s, at the beginning of the bebop wave. Therefore, there's a stylistic harmonic adjustment we need to make. In these old school tunes, the 1 chord is often a major 6 chord, rather than a major 7 chord. Due to the major 7 interval within the major 7 chord, there's dissonance within the chord itself. Then, To make matters worse, in these older tunes the melody often outlines the root, which then creates a flat 9 interval between the 7th and the root. So, to avoid this double dissonance, major 6 chords are preferred. Let's hear the A section with this stylistic tweak. So that's the A section harmony. Now, let's take a look at the melody. The A section melody consists of 3 phrases, and it stays mainly within the home key scale, C major, apart from bar 2, where the harmony moves outside the home key. Phrase 1 begins on the root C. Then it falls to the 5th G, and walks up through the home key scale to the 6th A. If the melody continued to rise through the scale, the next note would be the 7th B. However, at this point, the harmony has moved outside the key to F minor 7, so the melody has to reflect this. It bails out of the home key scale and instead lands on the 4th of the F minor 7 chord, B flat, before resolving to the 3rd A flat. The melody has now suitably acknowledged the backdoor cadence by enclosing the 3rd A flat, so it can get back to its diatonic ways. The phrase continues by walking up through the home key scale, from the 3rd E to the 5th G. And phrase 1 ends by falling from the 5th G to the 3rd E. The diatonic nature of the melody is then emphasised in phrase 2. The phrase begins by alternating the 3rd and 4th, E and F, before falling through a C major triad, from the 5th G to the 3rd E to the root C. At this point, the A section splits into 2 different endings. The first time ending leads back to the beginning of the A section, ready for the 2nd A. And the second time ending signals the end of the A section, as we're moving on to the B. This means that phrase 3 is different, depending on the A section. In the first A section, phrase 3 is all about the 5th. It begins by walking up through the scale, from the 2nd D to the 5th G. Then it rises to the 6th A, before walking up through the scale again, from the 3rd E to the 5th G. As the 5th G is so prominent in this phrase, we can also add a 5 chord, G7, which creates a 5-1 cadence to chord 1 in the first bar of the 2nd A section. Here's how the first A section sounds in time. In the first A section, the 3rd phrase opens up and hovers around the 5th, inviting the 5-1 cadence back to the top. However, in the 2nd A section, phrase 3 shuts down, as it's the end of the section. Here, it simply alternates the root and 3rd, C and E. Now let's hear the 2nd A section in time. One of the clever aspects of the A section melody is how it makes the harmony do the work. Most of the time, the melody is crystal clear C major, but it still sounds crunchy and interesting. This is due to how it hangs on the harmony. Take bar 3 for example. The melody note changes from the 5th of the C6 chord to the 13 of the B flat 7 chord to the 5th of the A7 chord. Or in bar 5, where in home key terms it falls from the 3rd E to the root C. But in D7 terms, this is the 9th and 7th. This is just a good compositional technique to keep in your toolbox. Keep the melody diatonic and get the tension from the harmony. Anyway, that's the A section covered. Next up is the B section. Let's start with the harmony. The B section begins on chord 3, E minor 7. Then, from here, it recadences. In a recadence, the harmony cadences back to an initial chord through a 5-1 cadence. So here, from E minor 7, the harmony cadences back to E minor 7 through a 5-1 cadence. As E minor 7 is chord 1, this means B7 is the 5 chord. Next, this E minor 7 chord becomes the 2 chord in a 2-5-1. As E minor 7 is chord 2, this means A7 is chord 5, and D is chord 1. We'd expect this D chord to be D major 7, as it's the 1 chord in a 2-5-1. However, this chord is instead D minor 7, and chord 2 of the home key. Next, the harmony repeats the same movement from the previous 4 bars. Starting on D minor 7, the harmony then recadences back to D minor through a 5-1 cadence. As D minor 7 is chord 1, this means A7 is chord 5. Then, this D minor 7 chord is the 2 in a 2-5-1 cadence, which resolves to chord 1 in the first bar of the final A section. Chord 2 is D minor 7, chord 5 is G7, and chord 1 is C6. Here's the B section harmony in time on the piano. Before we get stuck into the B section melody, I wanted to briefly explain a common bass movement through this progression. Check it out. From E minor 7, the bass can fall a semitone to D sharp, which is the 3rd of the B7 chord, making our chord B7 over its 3rd D sharp. Next, the bass note can fall another semitone to D, which is the 7th of the E minor 7 chord, making our chord E minor 7 over its 7th D. Then, the bass can fall another semitone to C sharp, the 3rd of the A7 chord, making our chord A7 over its 3rd C sharp. The same trick could also happen through the next 4 bars. From D minor 7, the bass can fall a semitone to C sharp, the 3rd of the A7 chord, making our chord A7 over its 3rd C sharp. Then, the bass note can fall a semitone to C, the 7th of the D minor 7 chord, making our chord D minor 7 over its 7th C. The bass note can then fall another semitone to B, the 3rd of the G7 chord, making our chord G7 over its third B. Obviously, it would be overkill to do all these subs on every chorus, but keep your ears peeled and you'll catch the bass players outlining it. Anyway, that's the B section harmony. Now let's move on and take a look at the melody. The B section harmony is clearly in two 4-bar sections. However, Bird disguises this through the melody, which is made up of 5 phrases with no sequencing in sight. Phrases 1 and 2 are all about E minor. So, to set this up, we can drop in a 5-1 cadence to the second time ending of the A section. As E minor 7 is the 1 chord and target, this means B7 is the 5 chord. So, phrase 1 begins with a pickup and a turn around the third of the E minor 7 chord G, outlining the third G, fourth A, third G, and second F sharp. Then it lands on the root E and walks up through the E Dorian scale to the third G. The phrase ends by jumping up from the root E to the fourth A. Phrase 2 is textbook bebop and perfectly outlines the 2-5 cadence. It begins with a turn around the third of the E minor 7 chord, G, exactly like the pickup to phrase 1, outlining the third G, fourth A, third G, and second F sharp. Then it falls to the root E. The phrase ends by preempting the A7 chord, and the melody rises chromatically from the second of the A7 chord B to the third C sharp. Phrase 3 begins with a semitone approach from above to the fifth of the D minor 7 chord A, before jumping up to an A an octave above. The phrase then ends by again thinking about the A7 chord, rising from the 5th E to the flat 6 F to the 7th G. Phrase 4 then walks down from the flat 6 of the A7 chord F to the 3rd C sharp. And the phrase ends by alternating the 5th and root, E and A, which is now the 9th and 5th of the D minor 7 chord. I know what you're thinking. If the melody so clearly outlines the harmony, then why are F naturals being outlined on the A7 chord? Well, this is due to the home tonality at this point being D minor. Therefore these F naturals are part of the home tonality, and all the notes in phrases 3 to 5 come from D melodic minor. Anyway, now we've cleared that up, on with phrase 5. Phrase 5 begins by jumping up from the second of the G7 chord A to the 5th D. Then it walks up through G mixolydian to the root G. So that's the B section melody. Now let's hear it in time on the piano. After the B section, the form ends with a final A section. Here, the harmony is identical to the earlier A sections, but the melody is slightly different. Phrase 1 is identical, and then things change from phrase 2. Phrase 2 begins on the 5th of the A7 chord, E. Then, it chromatically encloses the E from a semitone above and a semitone below. Phrase 2 ends by jumping up to the root A, which is also the 5th of the D7 chord. Phrase 3 is easiest to think of in relation to chord 1, C6. It begins on the 6th A, and then walks up through the home key scale to the 3rd E. The phrase ends by rising from the 5th G to the root C. So that's Yardbird Suite. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful. For all the lesson notes, plus a lead sheet and the sheet music of our arrangement, check out the PDF handout attached below.